Does everything have a bright side to it? Of course. Doesn't always outweigh the negatives, but everything has a bright side to it. This makes happiness a choice. And here we say that the discipline of being happy is the ultimate discipline. With that said, welcome to the Ultimate Discipline Podcast, where we meet with people who are practitioners of this exact discipline, and we hear their cool stories of cultivating happiness through challenges in their life. I am your host, Sean Greenspan. Let's get to it. Let's do this thing.
Let's do it.
I am so happy to have you, Mike, on my podcast today. I think it's a topic, the topic that you're a master at is a topic I think a lot of people are curious about. I'd say potentially confused. I could put myself in both of those categories. And for those that don't know, Mike is a master, I'm calling him a master, at investing for freedom. And what I like about his word choice and his intention behind this is he's talking about investing for freedom, right? To be able to live a higher quality life, not to have a Lamborghini and a fancy watch, but to have better relationships, experiences, and things like that. So I am absolutely stoked to have you on, Mike, and I appreciate you making the time, man.
Man, I'm excited to be here. It's just been great getting to know you over the last 6 months, and just excited to do this.
Yeah, and I'm excited. We have a in-person trip coming up too, so we'll be able to hang. It'll be golf season too, so I might bring the clubs.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, maybe kick it off by just giving a little background about yourself and really, kind of where you are today and how you got there.
Man, let's try to sum that up quickly. So I've been married for almost 24 years, man. Been married to Kara for a long time. We were young when we got married. People, a lot of times don't believe this, but my oldest is 22, Dylan, and then Tim's 21, and my daughter Kaiten is 19. So we're almost empty nesters. But I started my first business at the age of 24, almost out of necessity because I was a wage slave and realized that I didn't have the freedom that Kara and I had really, we started dating in high school and we talked about, life. And that's one thing that Kara and I have always done well is just created a vision for ourselves and always forward looking. And at the age of actually 23, we were just out of balance, man. I was working literally 100+ hours a week running a project. I was out of town. She's pregnant with our third child. And that's what really, caused us to take the leap into full-time entrepreneurship.
Wow.
Growing up, man, I did not really, map this out and say, hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I wasn't the guy that was like, I'm going to spend the rest of my life running businesses. It was really just that awakening when I realized I didn't have my freedom that kind of led us into that journey of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, you guys did start young. I didn't know you guys are high school sweethearts too. That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty wild.
So you started a company. How'd that first one go?
It was great. It's wild because I was 24 years old. I was actually a plumber. You may or may not know that too, but I was literally a plumber working in the field. I started a plumbing and heating business. Sean, I was so naive to business. I didn't know anything about, accounting, sales, marketing, which Sean, you'd probably still say I don't know much about marketing, but that's why we got you on staff. But anyway, I didn't know much about running businesses, man. And so I think the one thing that really separated us, every chance I got, I was hiring consultants. I was hiring people that were smarter than me. Everybody loves to say this, if you're the smartest guy in the room, find a bigger room. But like I was forced to do this at such a young age. And to answer your question, how did that first business go? We were on the Inc. fastest growing companies in America in 2009. We doubled our revenue every year. I never had an unprofitable year. And I ended up, over 100 employees. I sold that business in 2014. And along the way, started investing in real estate prior to selling that business. And that's kind of how I got into the real estate side of things. So it went pretty well.
That's awesome. And I think from where I am, which is in a much more humble position than 100 employees, but we're on the way there. I really want to explore what you said about hiring consultants and making sure you're not the smartest in the room. I heard recently that, like if you're doing the work and it's only as scalable as your work, you're not really an entrepreneur. And I don't care what the real definition of entrepreneurship is, but I like that concept of like, if you're not building a team, building processes and things around you, then, you know, you're not building an asset really. You're still trading your time for money, which we'll get into, but it's not the way to wealth. It just recently I started just realizing like, hey, like I know what I'm good at, but like there's a lot of things that other people are way better than me at, even like especially in the exact marketing world. So whether it's things that I'm executing for clients or consultants helping me, you know, run the business, I found that to be successful. How would you go about exploring different consultants or coaches or whoever you know is going to help you out?
So lead with your need. And I know that sounds, you know, super simple, but most people are not really clear on what it is that they actually need or what their weaknesses are. And I think that's one thing that's always been a skill set of mine. If we can actually look at it from the opposite side and just get really clear on what your 1, 2, 3 real core skill sets are, and then I literally make a list, 3-column list. And what are the things that only Mike can do? And so I think just getting really clear on the, you know, the top 3 things that only Mike, only Sean, only the audience can really do clearly, that's going to help you define the things you need to outsource. And then the second part of that is just ask around. I mean, referrals. I take my time when it comes to, you know, picking vendors or team members, et cetera. So once you identify what is it that you need, then get really clear on who's the person that's best suited for this and really take the time because, you know, I've made hiring mistakes. I've brought on the wrong vendors. And a lot of this is out of lack of knowledge and experience. And, you know, I don't necessarily look at that as failure. I look at that as just learning, but getting really clear on what your skill sets are. And then number 2, who is it that I need in my world? And like I said, referrals from other people are probably the best way to get that.
Yeah. I couldn't agree, you know, anymore. I mean, I'm just tipping my toe in the water, but as I start to like ask around, it's crazy. It's like so I'm looking to hire a full-time sales rep. I realize that's something that I don't need to be doing. I can assist them, I can train on, and it takes up a lot of time. And I like to serve clients. Like that's what, you know, lights me up. I literally sent one text. I said, hey, like, would you know someone that did this? Immediately they said, yes. Like I sent one text, connected with the guy. About 10 minutes later, we were on a call, like from the initial text. And it's this guy, Bobby. I love this guy, Bobby. He has experience. He's passionate. Like it seems like it's a perfect fit. I'll probably check out a few more just because, but funny how sometimes the world gives you what you're looking for. Yeah. I do really think, I don't want to overlook, and I don't want the audience to overlook what you said about like getting clear on your needs. And the fact that you handwrite it down, I really enjoy that because I think a lot of people will say like, oh, I'm getting clear on my needs. It's this, this, and this, and they're thinking about it. But it's like, if you write it down, it needs to make sense when you write something down versus when you think about it, you can kind of make logical jumps. And it's a little more of a formal exercise, I would say.
Yeah, totally.
So talk to me a little bit about your mindset around money and what financial freedom really is.
So my mindset around money actually started at a really young age. And again, I don't know if we've even spoken about this, but I grew up, my dad, my real dad was, he was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict. He was in and out of my life. He would disappear for, you know, seasons at a time. I didn't know where he was as a little guy. And honestly, just growing up with nothing, I think, you know, this happens. You hear a lot of people's stories like this. The majority of people that, you know, are successful and looking for something, they either have a chip on their shoulder or they're just wanting to break out of something. And for me, it was just breaking out of it. I don't have a chip on my shoulder. I don't have anything to prove. For me, it was just really about, you know, seeing so many experiences that taught me from a negative perspective what I didn't want in life. And honestly, going to McDonald's was a huge deal for me when my grandma would like take me to McDonald's like every 6 or 8 weeks. Like getting that little Lego toy was just an amazing experience. And, you know, I talk about this a lot, Sean, but relationships, experiences, and memories. And those are the things when I look backwards that are really important to me, like getting that little Lego and the Happy Meal. Like that was a huge experience to me. And I just started realizing that, you know, it takes resources in life to do anything that you really want to do. And I think we have it backwards sometimes. You know, I've got a vision board with the nice cars and the nice watches, and, you know, Karen and I have a beautiful house, but really at the end of the day, it isn't about any of that. I've been just as happy when we're living in literally a garage at times, as I was, living in the house that we live in today. So it's never really about money for me. It's really about the type of life that I want to live and who I want to be with.
I really respect that, and it's cool. It's cool, as I've got to know you, to see how you live that out. And actually, when I got a chance to speak to Kara a few weeks ago, she was talking about one of her biggest accomplishments was that you guys have a 19, 21, and 22-year-old right now, right?
Correct.
She was telling me that you guys had friends over and your kids were at the dinner table and happy to be at the dinner table and around, and not like, looking to eat and then go hang with their friends. Like, they wanted to be a part of the family. And, that's like a good way to show, what you actually care about and what you, are putting your effort into. So financial freedom, I know that's a key word in your world. What does that really mean to you? Like, what does financial freedom look like in Mike's world?
So financial freedom in my world is just, and this is going to sound overly simplified, and it is simple for most people. It's just not easy to do it. So financial freedom to me is just being able to do what I want when I want. And again, I know we hear this all the time, but here's a little example. So one time, my oldest son, Dylan, he's got his own business, and he started that business when he was like 17. And, he went through a period of time, as we all do, where he was struggling. And I remember telling Kara, I said, listen, I think I need to get out of town with Dylan for a couple of days. And so it was Sunday afternoon. And I said, Dylan, you want to go skiing in Park City for a few days and we'll just, clear our head and just have some conversations? He said, yeah, when? And I said, tonight. That to me is financial freedom, to be able to not have to go to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Listen, I love working, but when I don't want to, I don't feel it. I want to take a family vacation. To me, that is freedom. And so I measure freedom in the amount of days that I can actually take off where I don't have to go to work. And this can be also in your W-2 job. This could be in your investing career. It doesn't have to just be, only entrepreneurs can find financial freedom. I think it's just getting our mindset straight around what actually is it for us and then planning accordingly. Most people would fall into this category. Most of us do not want to spend 1 or 2 or 3 years straight on a beach. We just want the ability to be able to do that. And to me, that's financial freedom. Nobody can tell me whether I can or can't go to the beach tomorrow if that's what I want.
I love it. And you broke it down very well. Simple, but not easy, right? It is simple. I think as you were saying that, it kind of clarified my definition for it as well. And it's, kind of like still working, but on what I want, when I want, right? What do you think the number one thing you need to be able to work when you want, and on what you want is?
The number one thing that I think you need in order to have that freedom is to really just identify what is it for you, because it's really not, your monetary figure is something different than mine. What you want in life is something completely different than what I want. And for one person, it could be making 50,000 a year. And for another person, it could be 500 or 5 million. The comparison problem is really the thief in all of this. And I think it's really just getting back to what is it that you really actually want. And again, this is simple, but it's really hard to define because we're human. And at the end of the day, I think it's just getting really clear on what is it that Sean wants, what is it that Mike wants, and then just keeping that in front of you until you decide that it's changed or it's something different. And it probably will, by the way.
Yeah, I've already experienced that a little, and I'm glad I asked it that way, because I realized I asked it in a way that wasn't actually what I meant, but I love to hear that answer, because I do agree. I think everyone has different financial needs. I guess what I was trying to ask was a little bit more about, do you need, people say, I want residual income. I need my money to work for me. I need a business where, I'm removed. What types of things do you think you need to really have that financial freedom? Like, not from a monetary standpoint, more like a system standpoint.
So depending on what it is that you need, I actually do think that most of us need some sort of recurring, whether it's monthly recurring revenue, whether it's passive income when it comes to real estate. I think that we do ultimately need that in order to reach probably the goals that we really want, but we don't start there. And I think that's the big problem. Most people don't get moving because they're stuck on, the left side of the Grand Canyon and they want to get to the right side. And it's just such this big, vast undertaking that we just don't get moving. And so I think it's really just taking little steps toward that and moving toward the goal. And so nobody's going to wake up ever and have, $10,000 a month in recurring revenue or 100,000. It's just, start with getting 100 and then 1,000 and then 10,000. So I do think some level of passive or recurring revenue is really helpful. Is it necessary? No. I know some people that have a W-2 job that are very, very happy, and they take a lot of time off every year, and they've just planned it accordingly. So I don't think you have to have it, but I sure think it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree. The first thing that comes to my mind is, residual passive income. When I just think about that, and I think what then trying to like funnel it down, my brain goes next to some sort of ownership, owning stocks, owning investments, owning a business. Some sort of ownership seems like it lends itself towards that passive income, because Naval Ravikant is like a little financial guru that I like to listen to, and he talks about how everything in business and generating revenue is about leverage, and you can leverage your time, you can leverage your money, you can leverage your media, code that you wrote, like for a software, and whatever it is, as long as time really isn't the one you're leveraging, then you have time, right? And that's something that it is easier said than done. And for me in my business, Mike, like I've just been making every decision with my end goal in mind. So my end goal is to help people and businesses that I call mission-driven businesses, expand their impact and their reach on the world, right? So I'm a big fan of, let's get a lot of opinions out there. So I like small, mid-sized businesses, big fan of health and wellness, very much like in a vague sense, right? Like I consider anything related to self-development, that's health and wellness. Like I just want to help what passes the gut test for me as good people. But I really do want to do it in a way that I can serve the people that I'm working with at a high quality, and I can really be free with my time. And what I've started doing is every decision I make, even decisions like how I'm going to word this email, am I going to accept this meeting invite, with the end goal in mind. And I realized like I started writing emails. I feel like Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek, but I started writing emails where like a response is not required. So my email doesn't get full. Like, hey, I think this. If you agree, like you can do this. If you don't agree, you can do this. If you really have a question about it, like check out this document. And if you're still confused, let me know. And it's funny. Or like even today, I had a very important client, reach out and ask about like, hey, can we hop on a call today? And I said, what's it about? I just want to make sure I'm prepared and all that. They're like, we just want to chat real quick. I was like, what? If you could share what it's about, let me know, and we can get like an agenda and just make sure a call is needed and it's urgent. We should have it today. Cause I just realized saying no is really hard for me, but it's a quality that a lot of people have, is they know where to spend their time and where not to spend their time. And the person actually got back to me and said like, honestly, what they said, Mike, was Sean, like there's 2 areas that you're working with us that we're not really satisfied with. And I wanted to chat about it. And I said, there you go. That's urgent. Let's hop on a call, and I said, send over your notes beforehand. I'll review them thoroughly and let's chat. And, so you can say yes to things, but I think kind of putting up a little guard sometimes is good as well.
Yeah. I think on that note too, like I really try to compartmentalize this because, you're a student of life and business and efficiency and leverage. And I think that's a good thing. But so many people out there, I have conversations with doctors, lawyers, high net worth business owners all the time. And I would say 20% of them they're really clear on what it is exactly that they want when it comes to like financial freedom. And a lot of times we just find this journey where we've gone down this path, whether it started in high school, college, whatever it was, we became a doctor and we just wake up one day and we're there. And then we start down this journey of like, do I want to do something different? Do I want to shift? And I think there's this whole passion conversation around business, entrepreneurship, et cetera, that we really need to confront head on, because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of days that I'm not passionate about certain businesses that I run.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really getting clear on, what are we going to do to leverage those things out in our life? And it could even be just investing. It could be, certain skill sets. It could be time. And very few of us have really figured out fully how to be successful with working 20, 30 hours a week and learning to say no. So I think it's a great skill set that we need to learn more and more, but most people don't know how to do what you just said.
I don't. I'm working on it. And when you said the word compartmentalize, I'm not sure if this is what you're getting at, but what I've realized is you really need to be hyper. I think awareness is like one of the most important things in life, just to maintain high level of awareness to everything. And I realized I need to like compartmentalize it, because there are times where, I don't need my guard up. You know what I mean? Like Saturday afternoon, like if we're just hanging out, it's like if someone says something that might take time, cool. Like you need to be able to like flip the switch off and just kind of, enjoy. But I do think having the control to flip that switch on is important. You're talking about monthly recurring revenue from passive income streams. And it got me thinking, like, it seems like most people would say having financial freedom and freedom over my time would be something I'd like. I would say that everyone would enjoy that. And if they don't, maybe they're maybe hiding something or whatever, but that's my gut feel. My question is, if we have this goal that most people want and would probably rank at a really high priority of passive income and financial freedom, where do you think people are just like missing the boat, like fundamentally? I'm wondering where people miss the boat on trying to get to financial freedom.
Time. People are missing it on time. And we live in a day and age where everybody wants everything like now. We live in an efficiency world. You can have dinner delivered to you literally from any restaurant right now with, Uber Eats, DoorDash. It's time. When Karen and I set our first goal for passive income, I was running a business. I probably had, 40 employees at this point in time. And we set a goal of 2 income producing properties a year for 10 years. So my big first goal when it came to passive income was to buy 20 rental properties over 10 years. And the day and age that we live in with all the gurus, passive income, real estate, make life simple, there's a lot of, people are selling something. I mean, and that's the thing at the end of the day that it's going to take time to build that passive income. And so when I literally committed to 10 years for 20 rental properties. And Sean, the way that I was thinking about that at the age of 25, I was 25 years old. I thought, man, if I can get 20 properties over the next 10 years, by the time I'm 65 and still working in this plumbing and heating business, I'll have 20 properties that are paid for and I can retire off that. In this day, people are not thinking about retirement. We're not thinking about 10, 15, 20 years from now. And I think that's where they're missing it. Monthly recurring revenue, passive income is not an overnight game. This is a long game.
I appreciate that message. It's not a common one. Thank you. And it's funny. I'm 29 years old and I have already had times where COVID hit. I started living nomadically a few months before, then it became a trend. And I remember thinking I should buy a rental property. But, where the time's not right, blah, 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 just meandering around, not taking action. It's been 3 years now. And I've seen properties in Bend that I had my eye on that I've looked back, increase 70%, right? And the Bend, Oregon's real estate market is ridiculous right now. But, but I really saw a property that I wanted increase 70%. Right, that would have been life-changing for me right now. And I do think they're setting goals allows you to take action. And that's something I love about goal setting it kind of forces action versus, inaction and procrastination.
Yeah.
So I like that, goal setting. I'm going to add taking action in there, but also, having a long duration because it's been 3 years. You were talking about 40 years out. It's been 3 years. I would have already seen massive, success from it. And, you want to take calculated risks for sure. But I do think you need to take the risks.
You said something earlier too about, building assets, and usually it takes some level of a business ownership, et cetera. And I agree with that 100%. You can do it with a job. Like if anybody in the audience is listening, you can do it with a W-2 job. The problem is it goes back to that short-sightedness. No, that house that you were looking at, I guarantee you almost any house that you're looking at today, or any investment property really, if you go 5 to 10 years down the road, that property is going to be worth more in 5 to 10 years from now than it is today. The problem is that short-sightedness. We're concerned about what's going to be happening 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now. And Sean, I don't know what's going to happen 1 to 3 years from now either. That's why we're investing in shorter term things right now. But when I take a long view on investing, I know that anything that I invest in today is going to be worth more 10 years from now than it is today.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I'm gonna take that as a mental note for me to act on what I've been procrastinating on for 3 years. So tell me a little bit about what you're investing in now, and a little bit about your business, because I think the model is beautiful. I've actually looked at it before we knew each other, not your company, but companies structured similarly, right? So I'd love to hear a little bit about what you're doing today.
So we have a syndication structure, it's called, or, a lot of people would know it as a fund. And basically, to make that simple, it's a group of accredited investors that come together and we pool our money into a certain asset class. And so my primary asset class right now is manufactured housing. And Sean, I haven't bought any assets since 2019 because we were focused on distressed properties, and we bought, a pretty good sized portfolio of them. And now we're just focused on getting these things turned around. And so right now we're focused on short-term debt, 12 to 24 month loans from investors, just getting these properties turned around. We do invest in other assets. I've got a luxury vacation rental fund. So many people out there, we talked about this, but high net worth individuals, busy, owners of companies, they don't necessarily want to go out and start a luxury vacation rental fund. But every time they go rent one, they're like, man, how can I get invested in this? And how can I get the tax benefits? Well, the idea of investing with a group of investors in a fund, that's how you get the benefits of exposure to the asset class, get your money working for you.
Yeah.
You get the tax benefits, but that's essentially what we do. We just pull investor money together and go buy good assets.
I love it. And I think there's a tremendous service in there for people that are, looking and don't necessarily know exactly how or what to do with it. So I want to kind of trace it back to the comment you made about relationships, experiences, and memories. Was that?
Yep.
It seems like that had a big message behind it, like almost like that's like what you're on earth to do. I'd love to hear what relationships, experiences, and memories really mean to you, and where they are on your priority list.
When I'm on my deathbed and when you're on your deathbed, I don't think you're going to be thinking about the amazing houses that you owned, the great businesses that you owned. I think you're going to be thinking about the employees that were in those businesses. You're going to be thinking about the memories that you had in those houses. You're going to be thinking about the experiences that you were able to have when you traveled to Dubai with your family or friends. And so at the end of the day, like I think it's really simple. It's just not easy. All we really care about, people say this all the time, what's the purpose of life? And I guarantee you, it's not a bigger house. It's not a bigger boat. It's not a better car. It's not a faster car. It's about the relationships and the people that you meet along the way. And we just tend to overlook that. And I think a lot of times when we're really looking for those, there's nothing wrong with any of that, by the way. I love nice planes. I love nice houses. I love great experiences. But really, if you're going to go do that alone, just take inventory. Ask yourself, when was the last time that you went out on a trip alone that you really, really enjoyed yourself, unless you're out on a hike or some kind of intentional 3-day trip or something. For the most part, our best experiences in life are those that we share with other people. And at the end of the day, that's why it's relationships, experiences, and memories.
I love that. REM. It's a good band too.
It is a good band. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's funny because we really, it really makes, again, I'm just going off of what's coming to my mind now, but it's starting to make me think about reallocating, certain time into different buckets, right? Because, yeah, like, I'm not going to look back and be like, man, I sent 10 years of great emails, like, or, I really set up that business well. You're right. It's more about like what that gives you. And there is definitely like, I don't want to take it away. Like we're just looking at it from like a business mindset, but whether it's a business and you have a great service or whether you're in a creative role and you get to write or make music, like the work itself can be a memory and experience and can be stuff with people, but it's, it like making money isn't what it's all about, and I totally get that. And we spoke a little before the show and you mentioned that money is a form of energy. Do you think you can expand on that? Because that is a topic that I really love. And I want to, like you said, money's not real. Money's just a form of energy. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts behind that.
When I was a contractor, we used to trade certain things and there was no monetary transaction. And that was like the easiest way for me to understand, like, hey, I'll do the plumbing in your house if you will do the electrical in mine. There's no monetary transaction in that whatsoever. And I think we've lost sight of it. Money is actually just a tool of measurement. And you said energy, but it's just something to measure what I'm giving you versus what you're giving me. And that's where the energy component of that comes in. But as a contractor or doing trade for work, I think that's the easiest way for us to think about this. If you're going to help me move and then I help you move next weekend, there's no monetary transaction there, but there was still value added.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what we miss out at the end of the day. Even if I have employees, I love employees. And by the way, we spend the majority of our time with our employees. So this is not like I'm not saying that, relationships and experiences and memories mean that I spend 15 hours a day with those that matter most to me. That's not really sometimes it's not balance and we live through different seasons. But when it comes to energy and transactions, it's really just some kind of measure. And we've got to pay attention to that at the end of the day because money doesn't exist. It's not real.
It's crazy to think that, but yeah, it isn't real. And I think I shared with you before the call that I used to have visions as like a little kid about why can't we just live without money? Like I will happily do something, and when I was a kid, I used to think like just for like an IOU, like, I'll do something for you. And, when I need help down the road, just help me out. It doesn't need to be the exact amount of time or energy or value. Like just, if you have the time and the ability, help me out. And, it's funny because as I grew older, like I still have a similar vision, but I realized, help people without that, without even needing something in return. Right. Like, and it's funny. It's like, I'm, happy to help out and do something. And you don't ever need, I actually would almost prefer if you didn't like feel indebted and just received it fully and just said, thank you so much, Sean. That really made my day. Cause like, again, relationships makes me feel good that I'm able to make you feel good. So I do like where your head's at with this.
Well, one of the things that I'll say quickly on that, the reason why money is challenging sometimes is because it's literally was designed to keep score. And it doesn't have to be that way. But if you think backwards, if you were a cattle farmer and I was a chicken farmer and one cow equals 200 chickens, that was really hard to account for. And so they had to create some sort of measurement. And when you fast forward to today, that's why money was created first and foremost. I mean, seashells, tulips, whatever it is. But if you look at today, banks are literally just a ledger. And I don't want to go off on a tangent when it comes to like Bitcoin, but literally Bitcoin is a great example of this conversation when it comes to energy, because Bitcoin is just a complex ledger that's more pure than a banking ledger. And when we're talking about all the issues that are going on today in a bank, money doesn't even exist anymore. They're just digits in different people's bank accounts. And so again, money was designed to keep score because it's complex in measuring each other. And that's why it can have a negative feeling around it too, because literally it's keeping score.
Yeah. And that's, that is weird. There's because life's not a negative sum game or a zero sum game. You know, it's a positive sum game. You can win and I can win, but we're definitely wired to think like, oh, I need to put Mike down so I can level up, right? Like sports are a zero sum game. Someone has to win, someone has to lose, right? Status is a zero sum game. There's only one person at the top, you know, so that is weird. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies in general?
In general, in the long run, I love it. I think the technology is going to change so many industries. I think, again, it makes it, here's the crazy thing about it. The reason why there's so much resistance to it is because it takes the money and makes it equal. It like literally balances the energy around it. We don't need banks if we have Bitcoin. We don't need the Federal Reserve if we have Bitcoin. And that's where it's going to get really interesting, because the banking cartel, the Wall Street cartel, they're going to do everything they possibly can to stop this. Even in real estate, do you know how many billions of dollars in transactions are going to be saved because of the ledger? We don't need title companies. We don't need title insurance. We don't need entire courthouses that are full of documents like listing, 200 years of who owned title to this property if we had the ledger. So I think in the long run, it's going to be amazing, but I think there's a big uphill battle to it being good. And so I'm not a big speculator. I'm going to always have some of my wealth in it. But to me, it's a small percentage at this point in time, because I don't know if it's 5 years or 50.
Yeah. I think that's super fair. It makes me think, and I don't know if you're comfortable answering this question, but if you had $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 to invest in April of 2023, what would be an asset class or an area that you would want to focus on?
I believe we're in a time of preservation of capital. So we need to, every dollar that you've earned, you earned it. So I would be investing in things right now that are shorter term. As I said earlier, I'm convinced that 5 to 10 years from now, real estate will perform well. But $50,000, if I had $50,000 right now, I would put it somewhere that's backed by real assets. Income funds are my favorite. We have an income fund, so I'm a little biased when it comes to this, but putting it into short-term notes that are backed by real estate is probably one of the things that I would look at. And if you're not comfortable enough with that yet, just start investing in your education. And I would put it into a short-term 6-month treasury right now, because those things are, producing 4.5% right now. You're getting 0.08% in a bank. So if you don't understand investing in real estate notes and you're not comfortable with that, then put it into a treasury or something until you educate yourself. So
I love that. And well, two things. I actually want you to expand a little bit on short-term notes, but you said like putting it into like a 6-month treasury, get your 4%, 5%, and invest in your education. I've always looked at money and investing like it has to be on a sheet of paper, right? Meaning, okay, I have $1,000. Where can I put it so I can get to $2,000, right? Like where I can then say this $2,000 came from this $1,000. I would say that the two best investments I've made in the last 5 years was going on a wellness retreat and hiring a life coach, which, boy, oh boy, you cannot say this money came exactly from here. In my gut, I kind of can feel it and I kind of know it. But I think investing in sometimes yourself, in skill sets, whether that's a consultant to your business, whether that's a much needed vacation or a retreat where you're working on yourself, or a coach, whatever, even, personal trainer. But like, I think that's a cool concept in investing in your own education. Is that kind of what you meant by it? Like, whatever it is, a real estate investing course or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever it is you're interested in. And I'll tell you, it doesn't have to be $50,000. The book that I've got several books that have changed my life, but The Richest Man in Babylon is like a 110-page book. And I've literally read or listened to it over 100 times. And it is some of the best investing money advice that exists. And it's like a $9 book. So investing in your education can be so many different things, but yes, it could be a course. It could be a mastermind. It could be a community. It could be a book.
Yeah. Thanks for making it so accessible to everybody, right? Because I think we're naturally want to set excuses. Our ego wants to protect itself. Most people say, "Oh, I can't do that. I can't afford that." But yeah, that's an $8 book. Start an Audible free trial, and you can get it for free. I have a note. I'm going to read it. Haven't come across that. Okay, so I do want to hear a little bit about, it's April 2023. You're recommending 12 to 24 month, like short-term notes that are backed by real estate. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that is and why you would start there right now?
Well, and specifically, note investing is not a simple concept. So again, you're going to need to do a little bit of education around this. And even so many of our investors are passive investors. They're high net worth individuals. They're business owners. They're literally accredited. And for those that don't know what that is, it means they've made $250,000 a year for the last 2 years with the likelihood of continuing that, or 300,000 as a couple. Or they have $1 million of net worth without their personal residence. And by the way, I would study accredited investor and what that means and why, because there are so many investments out there that are reserved for accredited investors only. And the reason why is because the government says that if you've made this amount of money, then you are big enough, mature enough, knowledgeable enough to be able to invest in things that everyday people can't get access to. So I would really, if I was going to set a benchmark for myself, a monetary benchmark, it would be to figure out, how do I get to accredited investor status? Because so many people have access to these investments that others don't. Most people just put their money into Wall Street, like 401k, that kind of thing. And it's a zero-sum game, as you said earlier. And I call it the Wall Street cartel, because the people that are making all the money are the people that are paying the fees, charging the fees on Wall Street, not the person that's investing the money. And so the reason why I love these notes, to answer your question, it's backed by real assets. It's something that you can get into for shorter periods of time, in this case, 1 to 2 years. So you have a real asset behind it. You're getting better than normal interest rates. Like I said earlier, you can get 4.5% in the treasury, or you can get 12% on a short-term 1-year note that, again, is backed by real estate, meaning there's a piece of real estate that guarantees that loan. And so if you don't get paid, you can go through a process of being part of the repossession of that property.
Interesting. That's awesome. So yeah, I really like that. And again, I think goals are important. It's not that if you have $50,000, you're gonna boom, be happy and free. But that's a great goal. Put that out there, and it opens new doors. So something that I'll try to include in the show notes as well as some things on short-term notes backed by real estate. Because I do think all you see on the news is the market's going down, the housing market, inflation's up, blah blah blah. And it never ends. And a little bit of clarity around that is awesome. I know we're gonna wrap up here soon, Mike, but one thing that I wanted to ask you is just any final notes you had around the concept you said in the beginning. You started talking about your story. I was working 100 hours a week. I had 3 kids. I was 23 years old. I saw a post from you on social media. I saw it maybe 20 times, because I saw the raw version, the edited version, the posted version. And you were saying that until the pain of the, I'm gonna butcher this, but you know where I'm going. The pain of the position that you're in, take it from here.
Yeah. Until the pain of your current situation becomes more painful than what it's going to take to change that situation, you're not going to do anything about it. And so many people just live their life because they know they're stuck, they know they're unhappy, but they also don't want to put in the work. And again, I'll come back to the period of time that we live in. You quoted Naval Ravikant earlier, and I love Naval because he breaks it down into bite-sized chunks, but the reality is he is a diehard component of, it's going to take time. It's going to take work. It's going to take desire. And in this day and age, people want things yesterday. And again, the world is full of coaches and consultants that are giving you a get rich quick, solution to your problem. And the reality is, people have tried that and it didn't work. This doesn't work. Well, it's because you didn't stick with it, because you thought it was going to be easy, because you thought it was going to be some microwave method to wealth. And if you talk to anybody who's successful and wealthy, and has achieved their goals, and they're going to tell you it took a lot of clarity and work and failure and tenacity. And I've failed more than most people will probably fail in their life, but I just keep getting up and I just keep going. And I think people think that, it's going to be easy. And so the first time they hit a roadblock, they start crying and they just quit because they thought it was going to be easy because some guru told them that this is the simple 15-step method to wealth, and that just doesn't exist. And so again, the one thing that I would say is, if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. If it was easy, everybody'd be wealthy. And the reality is there's going to be pain along the way, and you're just going to have to get better, and you're going to have to keep getting up, and you're going to have to keep learning along the way.
Thanks for that, Mike. And you going through this discussion, it started getting me realizing that I like to read a lot of self-help books on happiness, books on psychology, philosophy, yoga, like ancient yoga practice, stuff like that, which are great. And I enjoy them. I also love the discussion that people have. It's like basically like an internal dialogue they're sharing with you. But I do think there's also a need to also be reading at the same time things that are a little more hard education, right? Like economics books, books on finances, books on hard science, things like that, because I feel like that, and this is another Naval thing, but I feel like that's like the root of a lot of this. And I find myself getting away from that. And it's probably because that's the easy decision. Let me read about this guy's life. It's like, it's fun to go on his journey and then see how he was successful at the end and hope the same thing happens for me. But something that I'm going to start doing is, even if it's 10 minutes a day, 10 pages a day, whatever, pick up a book on finances. And that's one of the biggest things that I got away from this is, take the time, learn, because if you don't learn it yourself, it's not going to happen over the long run, right? It might, and that's what we're looking at is the long run here. So I also appreciate your message around patience, Mike, and the way that you make becoming financially free a little more accessible to people, right? Even if it starts with your investment as a $9 book in your education. So thank you so much, Fat, and thank you for making the time.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to do it. And I love what you said about the $9 education too, because yeah, there's a ton of self-help books, but the reality is I think we need to read more, get shit done books. And The Richest Man in Babylon, one of the principles is 1/10 of all you make is yours to keep. And most people are not going to put aside 10% to invest in. So that's just a great example to wrap it up. Like it's not easy. You gotta just do the work.
Do the work. Enjoy the process too. That's it. It's funny. 5 a.m. today, I was deadlifting and I was like working. I was there with my buddy, and my buddy's one of those people that cool, really cool guy. But I think I look into this stuff because you could tell I kind of like this stuff. I think to like make himself feel good, he makes it seem like our workout is like so hard. Like he does a set, he's like, "Oh my God, my legs are crushed. Like this is such a hard workout." And he's not like down, like he's not really down. He's more just like, "Dude, how hard is this?" Right? Or like, and I'm just like, "No, man, this is like I woke up stoked for this. Like this is what we're here to do." And like when you fall in love with the process, like then it's like, staying in shape becomes like an easy thing. And I think it's it seems like you've been able to do that in many areas of your life. So you need to extrapolate that principle all over.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mike, I love chatting with you, man. I'm glad we got to do this because a lot of the times we just get snippets of your wisdom or I get to see it on a screen, but it was nice to experience it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It was a ton of fun.
Hey, thank you for watching today's episode. If you got something out of this, it would mean so much if you could just take a second and give us a rating on whatever platform you're watching it on. And it would mean so much to the world if you could just find one person that you think this message resonates with and you can share that with them. Thank you so much for your support. Looking forward to share the next episode with you.